Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another modern video. Um, I am going to try this modern video in a very different format for reasons that will make sense in a minute. For those of you who make it like through the whole video or most of the video and you see a couple of rounds, please let me know what you think of this format. This will kind of be important moving forward for how I handle modern leagues. So Charles sent me this pretty spicy deck list that they called HawkVine. The Hawk portion comes from Squadron Hawk. Enters the battlefield, you can search for the other 3 copies of it. Just classic card, has seen play in a lot of formats from standard to legacy. And the Vine part is for Vengevine. Whenever you cast a spell, if it's a second creature spell you cast this turn, you may return Vengevine from your graveyard to the battlefield. So essentially, this deck is looking to use Faithful Mending or Champion of Wits. When it ETBs, draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. To go and put these things into the graveyard. And then it wants to cast multiple Squadron Hawks or like ramp some mana with Risen Reef until it can cast 2 other creatures and then kind of return these things. The pitch creatures like Solitude and Endurance offer you kind of another early way to get Vengevines into play. And I've been talking with my Discord about this deck. And I suspect that this deck is unplayable. And I don't mean this as a deck building insult. But I think this deck is just like trying to do too much, right? Like it is trying to be an Ephemerate Blink deck. It is trying to be a Risen Reef Elemental Synergy deck. It is trying to be like a Squadron Hawk get white cards for Solitude deck, all while trying to like return Vengevines as well. I think there's just too much going on in this deck list, and some or maybe even multiple portions of this deck list need to be eliminated in order to get something that's a little bit more cohesive. And so rather than just like play a league with this deck and I suspect like get bodied and 0-4 dropped, I'm actually going to start in the tournament practice room and I'm going to kind of go through a like real in-time tuning process. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of goldfish some hands with this deck, try to figure out like on what turn am I doing something that can realistically win the game, get a feel for like what is and isn't working, and try to come up with some replacements and changes to this deck list. So I imagine the thing that I'll end up playing for a couple matches is going to be wildly different from the starting point here. And my Discord came up with a bunch of ideas, but I need to play this deck because this deck, it just feels too clunky to me. It feels like there's too much going on, but without playing it, I'm not sure what the worst part is, and I think I need to try and figure that out before I jam some games. Yeah, like there's a sideboard here. We'll deal with the sideboard when I feel like I have the main board in an acceptable position. So again, let me know what you think of this format, because we're going to start with some goldfishing, and then we're going to play some matches in the tournament practice room, and we're going to see how it goes and see if we can get this deck to a point where it feels in an okay position. So comments are very, very, very much appreciated on today's video, is what I'm getting at here. Let's kind of jump directly into things. It just now occurred to me that I should probably like show off this feature because this is something that I've never done on the channel. So if you want to like goldfish a deck, you can go to Modern Open Play, you can create a game, and you can create it as a single player game so that you just kind of goldfish what's going on. And I have a pad of paper here with me. And what I'm going to be tracking is on what turn do I do something broken or strong that reasonably might win a game of Modern. Okay, that's what I am going to be tracking, and I am just going to keep any reasonable looking opening hand. This one's a little slow, right? Oh, I actually don't have that many good beginning of the game plays. That's another issue, right? Is like essentially these are often not viable turn 1 plays. So immediately we might want more mana dorks. I'm just gonna mulligan that. Okay, I would have kept this hand, pitching a Solitude, and this room always treats it like you're on the draw. And so that's our turn 1. Oh, this turn counter doesn't tick up, as I have to manually track my turns. Okay, that's not the best. All right, so this is turn 2. I would play a Champion of Wits here. Yeah. So let's do that. So I do that, draw 2, discard 2. Just junking some lands, unfortunately. So this would be my turn 3. I would cast a Faithful Mending. Okay, I can discard a Vengevine and a Solitude. I can fetch, grab some land, play. Actually, I already have 4 mana sources, so I could just like play another Faithful Mending and try to find another Vengevine. Did not succeed. What? So that was my turn 3. We've gotten in for 3 damage. And then I would go what? So I'd play a Hawk, get a draw 2 out of it. 1, 2. And then I would play second Hawk, triggering a Vengevine. And then I don't have anything new to do here. So this is my turn where I did something broken. This was turn 4. I did 6 damage along with the 2 that I'd done a previous turn. I don't know that this wins a game of Magic, but that was turn 4. We did something respectable. Not good, respectable, I think. So let's just kind of run that back. And this is a hand where if my opponent played a creature, I could like Solitude, pitching Solitude, ephemerate it, bring it back immediately. I guess I would keep that in the dark. Would I naturally just discard a Vengevine here? Probably not. Like, that's... Taking a turn off to just hard discard a Vengevine here is just probably not acceptable. So I would just play another land. I don't have any play this turn. I would play a Risen Reef this turn. And then I just be, like, naturally casting a Vengevine on turn 4. I would probably shock here to just hold up Ephemerate as a protection spell. So on turn 4, I have 5 damage. So that'll be 5 damage followed by 9 damage and an additional draw card. That's mediocre. So like again, it's turn 4 that I did something that was okay. Like, do I have any real chance of just doing something absolutely busted? Like, I would potentially just keep this hand in the dark. This spell is a little slow, though. But I would keep this. The Faithful Mending situation is a little awkward. So this would get me blue-white. I need to draw another land to be able to Faithful Mending and kind of set this hand to an okay position. So, yeah. Yeah? Mending, just kind of junk those. On turn 4, I can potentially Ephemerate. So this is 4. I'm not really doing anything. This hand is probably just going to kind of just clunk around and die. Yeah, I don't have Vengevines. I don't have any real way to set up a broken situation here. I'm just gonna call this one a fail. Where like it's turn 4, I haven't done anything major. I would have died at this point. Let's do 5 of these. That will give me a good feel for what's going on. All right. I will keep this. So this hand has the best chance of doing something busted of the hands that I have seen so far. So this will be I'm not going to sit here and think about my mana in this hypothetical game. I'm just going to grab lands. So this would be a Faithful Mending or white-blue. That discards a Vengevine and some other card, and then next turn I can play double Squadron Hawk. I'll play the Noble Hierarch just so I can kind of see how this math checks out. So this is, what, turn 1, turn 2. This is turn 3. I will make a Vengevine and attack in for 6. Okay, this is the best hand of the lot so far. And let's Goldfish one more time before we kind of think about the deck list. All right. I would keep this. So This hand is a little awkward in that I might not easily have the next creature that I need if I play things out on curve. So if I play Champion of Wits this turn and discard Vengevine, I would need to find another creature, or I can like wait a turn and essentially wait, like just completely take a turn off. I'll pretend that I used this turn to cast a March of Unholy Light, um, and interacted with my opponent in some way. So then on this turn, I would play the champion and use its ability, starting a Vengevine and some other card, and then Noble Hierarch would return this. Yes, and I would get a decent sized Vengevine attack. Okay. I've got some data here. Let's kind of go back to the drawing board now. All right, I'm back in the lab. I've done a little bit of research. So essentially, I think if you want to play an elementals deck in modern, something like this is your starting point. This was from a recent high-profile tournament. I didn't write down what it was or anything. But essentially, I think if you want to drag the game on to the point where cards like Risen Reef can really take off, I think you need more stuff to get you out of the early game. Like Ren and 6 is a huge distraction. Like these like ramp and mana fixing cards are very powerful. Um I I don't just want to like take this as a starting point because like this would remove both like the Vine and the Hawk from the equation from the donor's original deck list. But I think if you are going to pursue an elemental avenue, like this just has so much interaction and the average power level of the cards in this deck is really high, right? So like if you look at this, like what cards are you embarrassed to be playing? Maybe Eldamari's Call is or sorry, Eldamri's Call is like a little slow. Otherwise, like these are just a bunch of incredibly high powerful cards. Whereas when you look at this deck list, like what cards are you embarrassed to be playing? Like Squadron Hawk, Champion of Wits, Vengevine, Ball Drifter, March of Otherworldly Light. Like there's at least 5 cards in the main deck here that are just rough and Faithful Mending. If you're not doing a ridiculously broken animation thing, like probably ticks that up to 6. Um, so essentially, I think we've got to do something here to make it so that we have more singularly powerful cards that have the chance to win the game on their own. And this is just going to be kind of me doing this in real time, and we'll kind of see where we end up with. So the first thing in goldfishing these games, my turn 2 is really, really bad if I do not have a noble hierarch. So I think I'm going to get rid of a bunch of these slots to get both mana acceleration and a few more standalone win the game cards. If we get to the point where I always cast a Risen Reef on turn 2, then just like hardcasting a Vengevine on turn 3 that like draws me a card when it happens is not embarrassing at that point, right? I'm not sure about these Squadron Hawks because like ignoring the synergy with Solitude, which is cool. I don't know. I think I'm gonna get rid of all of the March of the Otherworldly Lights, all the Ephemerates, all of the Muldrifters. I think I need singularly powerful cards that I can play to the board as frequently as possible. So I think I'm going to want a full play set of Endurance. I think if I want to keep this Vengevine Dream alive, I need another Faithful Mending. I just think that's non-negotiable. You're not an elemental, right? Yeah, you're a Naga wizard. I think I need a full playset of Prismatic Ending. I think that replaces the cards that I just took out, the March of Otherworldly Lights. This gives me 4 more slots to work with, and I think some number of Solitudes need to go. Like, it's cool, but I think some number of, like, Solitudes or Champion of Wits or something need to go just so I have enough reasonable turn 2 or 1 plays as well. What's singularly powerful that can win the game on its own that I can put into a Bant deck? Stoneforge Mystic. Let's try that. So let's get some Stoneforge Mystics in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That probably means that I want Cauldra. Get in there. I probably need at least one more piece of equipment. There's no Jitte. Want like a Batter Skull. Like just have a source of life gain that I can staple to all of these otherwise expendable creatures. Something like that seems fine. Okay. This is 62. Junking that leaves me with 6 removal spells. I really want a few more mana dorks to just accelerate into endurance. Like endurance dealing with something like a Dragon Rage Channeler immediately is pretty good. Do I give up on the Champion of the Wits plan? Like, it is another way to get the Vengevines into the graveyard. Do I just give that up because, like, this is just, like, not a reasonable Magic card to be playing? If I give that up, I can play more mana dorks that just make it so that I can hardcast the Vengevines in the times where I don't have a Faithful Mending. I don't hate it. Am I like a 7 mana dork deck? Not crazy. I don't know. Like, at what point do I not have enough elementals to make the Risen Reefs worth it? So, like, let's knock these to the side for a minute. Like, I could play more Solitudes and then just play, like, a 5th mana dork of 9 turn 1 plays at that point. I'm counting Prismatic Ending as a turn 1 play because I think it usually will be. Alright. Just 1 card to discard Vengevine. But, like, I look for Vengevine decks. Like, there basically haven't been Vengevine decks in Force since Faithless Looting was banned. Like, that was the thing that allowed you to do Vengevine early and consistently. Alright, let's junk these, and I'll figure out a mana dork to add. Oh, why am I overthinking? I should just play Bird of Paradise. I was sitting there thinking, like, is there something better than Ignoble Hierarch? No, I can just play Bird. Alright, there's a bird. There's a bird with different art. There's a bird with more different art. Okay, so 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 turn 1 plays, counting Prismatic Ending as a turn 1 play. And then if I consider most of this stuff as turn 2 plays, my curve is a lot more reasonable. This leaves me with 29 creatures. I think the first build had 28 creatures, so I have gone up on my creature count. I wonder if this is reasonable. This is probably reasonable enough to play a game versus an actual opponent. Let's take a quick look at this sideboard. Voice of Resurgence is an elemental for Who's He What's It. Okay. So sideboard feels kind of slapped together. I was told Bribery was very specifically for Tron. And I have 4 Prismatic Endings in the sideboard, so that's got to go. Okay, let's pick some things that I want to beat. It looks like artifacts or something that, like, this is trying to cover. That's fine. I tend to run into a lot of burn, a lot of living end when I play matches online. I have no idea what the tournament practice room will do to that. But I really don't think that I'm beating any sort of, like, living end or cascade deck without something like this. This is kind of a lackluster sideboard, like, very quickly thrown together, but this is good enough for us to, like, play some games and just kind of see how these changes play out. Let's jump into the tournament practice room with this and play against an actual human. Alright, let's see how this goes. This is a reasonable opening hand that does nothing that my deck was designed to do. I will be keeping this hand. And we're mostly going to just hope that my Prismatic Endings have good targets for what my opponent is doing. If that's the case, this hand is fine, and if that's not the case, like, I am going to stumble around and die without doing anything meaningful. Yeah, sure. Alright, Gilded Goose. I don't, like, super want to Prismatic Ending away a Gilded Goose. It's, like, not a particularly powerful card. Oh, that's not bad. Since I can Prismatic Ending and then play a Squadron Hawk, I will just do so. Like, I accept this. Yeah, don't know whether or not I truly want to shock here. I will go ahead and make my mana better. And let's get Birdcestral Vision going. Or Birdcestral Recall. 2, 3. Alright, good stuff. Just want to, like, state how bad it would be for my opponent to just, like, play a reasonable magic card like Ren and 6 right now, though. Like, losing these creatures would be, like, devastating. I guess I have a second Prismatic Ending to help out with that. Or Goose. The follow-up. Oh, so we're playing against, like, a Cat Oven deck. Okay. Probably Prismatic Ending. I maybe don't have to make that decision yet. I can just play a couple of birds and attack my opponent for 2. And then when they actually go and play something that matters, I can disrupt it. I don't know what my opponent is doing well enough to, like, make informed decisions about how important it is for me to remove some of this stuff. I can also just try to stick them on mana and play an Endurance, which I actually don't hate. Like, take the free ones where you can get them. Because I assume it takes my opponent quite a bit of mana to kind of do their thing. You can have a food token. Play Flooded Strand and pass. The tournament practice room, I'm also more likely to run into Bruise, so, like, I don't know if what my opponent's doing is established, but I don't recognize it. Like, there's some sort of cat oven nonsense going on, but I don't know what the rest of the supporting cast is. I don't know if there's gonna be, like, Asmores here or what. Ooh. Absolutely. That's cool. Oh god, that's that's a player. Alright, there's a whoopsie. Wild. I'll just basic planes here. Do an endurance. My Squadron Hawks look pretty embarrassing versus this Mayhem Devil. And yeah, I'll send that back. I've drawn Cauldra. Not what I'm looking for. So I'll bash in with a 4/5. Put my opponent to 10. They should be at 9. Like, I should have done another point of damage with a Squadron Hawk, but I just kind of assumed based on templating that that was going to be whenever you sacrifice, not a player. I obviously was wrong. And we'll see if I get punished for using my Prismatic Endings early to just try to knock my opponent off of mana. Okay. So that makes a treasure token. So my opponent can just sack that to ping something. That's kind of cool. Yeah, absolutely. Goodbye, Noble Hierarch. Okay, there is the Cauldron Familiar. Now I see how my opponent intends on winning the game. All the pieces make sense now. Next game, I probably won't be so aggressive in using the Prismatic Endings. My opponent, like, their individual creatures don't actually cost that much. Yeah, so now they're gonna ping down my board. That's fine. How does this work? You sacrifice a food to return it to play. So then they can just, like, do that to ping another one. Okay. So Mayhem Devil and Oven are the things that I am going to want to exile in the future. Got it. So that thing returns. That gains them life while they do that. That's super cute. I like it. 3 in combat, end up at 11 for the turn cycle. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I am not dead, but I am in bad shape. I'm going to concede this game. I think my opponent's got this one, and I'm not playing for any real stakes right now since I'm not in an actual event. All right. Protection from black and red is reasonable. And Voice of Resurgence, just as something that comes back, also seems reasonable. So let's try to get 4 cards in here. Is it my Squadron Hawks that go? It's just not, like, super reasonable to be playing a bunch of X1 creatures that just die to a pinger. That seems okay to me. I'm just kind of generically looking at the sideboard. I also wouldn't hate having, like, some Path Exiles or something here. I will believe in Faithful Mending to filter this hand into something reasonable. It's not the case that happens, I will just die. That'll be a, like, so be it sort of situation. Right. What do you have? A Goose? Or you're just going to push my Hierarch? Push my Hierarch, absolutely. Alright. Let's find a Vengevine. It's not, like, super likely to happen, unfortunately. Okay, it happened. I'll play a land next turn, and then play Bird Voice and get both back. I'll discard the Boseiju here, I guess. Alright. Turn 3 Vengevine is the plan, right? A Thoughtseize is pretty damn good against me right now. Not like crippling or anything, but it's good. And opponent has the oven, and they have the cat. Now I can endurance away that at some point. I just need. Oh no, Island does not cast Bird of Paradise or Voice of Resurgence, unfortunately. And I could cast Voice and then like pitch cast Endurance. Take a little bit of a gamble here. I'm gonna cast a Voice. I have to fetch to do this. I'm going to cast a Voice of Resurgence and hope that my opponent is going to sacrifice their Witch, their Familiar, at the end of turn. Wait, how does this work? Sacrifice a creature, create a food token. So this goes to the graveyard. They don't have the food yet. Yeah, so I will have an opportunity to just nuke that. And I want green. My secondary color doesn't matter much. I'll pick white. So I'm going to cast this in hopes that my opponent sacrifices this at end of turn so that I can endurance the cat away while also triggering my Vengevine. The perfect trap. Absolutely. Alright. That gets my Vengevine to play. Yes. Now, I admittedly don't get the haste damage off, but we got 6 power in play on turn 3. And I just dealt with a rather annoying card from my opponent. Now, I did give up the Endurance body, which is certainly relevant. But this is my deck trying to, do its Vengevine thing. And, if opponent has anything powerful going on. 2 mana. I don't know what this card is. Oni Cut Anvil. When one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield, create a 1/1 idiot once a turn. Sack an artifact to drain 1. Okay, cool. My opponent is going to be very good at blocking my shit. This only triggers once each turn, but it can trigger on my opponent's turn and my turn. Okay. The first part only the first part only happens during your turn. Sorry. A new Vengevine. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these creatures sideways, and then I'll cast a Faithful Mending from the graveyard and try to set up returning a Vengevine. My opponent's just going to sack this for a food. Oh no, they're not. Yeah. Let's mend. Do I just keep the Vengevine to hardcast now, though? Honestly. I'm going to go with no. I'm going to try to set up bringing it back. Not going to play my land drop, though. If I draw something like a Mana Dork, I can just play Champion into, a Bird or a Noble Hierarch or something, and then return the Vengevine for free. Maybe that's getting a little too greedy on the value spectrum, but we'll see. Hey, it's Pauper All-Star Deadly Dispute. That card's real good. Okay. That'll bring opponent to 12. Opponent can put something like a Mayhem Devil into play. Okay, yeah, and they do have one. That is going to mean not so great things for me, because my opponent has this oven and the anvil. So they can get a lot of slow control going on the game. Yeah, my creatures are... Oh, that's really cool. I don't have triple white, though. So I can't do everything here. I think I will start by attacking with the Vengevine. I think I just need to continue to pressure my opponent. And if this thing dies, I don't really care, because I'm hoping to bring it back. We're probably going to see a jump and a sacrifice here. Okay, yeah, there's the activation of the Witch's Oven. Always yield to these. Not so much with the interaction here. Okay. So now they're going to ping and kill the voice. We'll get a token. Work on making that token larger. I am very unsure if I'm supposed to play this land. I have this Faithful Mending in the graveyard that I might want to turn this into a creature for, so I think I'm going to not. My opponent's definitely getting their thing going. It's turn 5. I haven't done anything just super insane. And my opponent does have Ren and 6 in their deck. That was something that I was worried about. That's just another thing that pings X1 creatures in a way that's not super good for me. I'm potentially okay if my opponent, well, my opponent probably goes after my board pretty hard this turn, right? Like, they kept, oh, okay, they're going for Vengevine first. I don't think that's correct. I think, well, it depends on how many things I can sacrifice. If they can junk my Vengevine and then junk my elemental token, like, that's totally fine. If they can only get one, I think they're supposed to get rid of the elemental token before that gets harder to answer. Alright, so 3 mana, 2 different things available that can sacrifice stuff. I guess technically 3, counting this. Kind of see where this goes. Alright. There will be triggers. Okay. Next time around, I need to just always yes to this. Alright, take your treasure. Okay. So that's sacrificing that. That gives my opponent a creature and allows them to ping something. Okay, they're going for the Vengevine. Okay, now that this is on the stack, always yes, always yield. We both will gain an annoying amount of life. This life gain means that I'm less likely to just crash in with a Vengevine a couple of times and kill my opponent. Opponent's also got a decent number of blockers here. So I expect bad things are happening to me this turn. Okay. So there's one more ping on the Vengevine, which kills it. And now if my opponent sacrifices 2 more things, they can finish off this elemental token before it grows into problem range. Oh, okay, cool. That's their turn. Yeah, I really needed 2 creatures this turn. This Stoneforge is like just simply not going to live. Maybe getting Batterskull with it is fine. I'm going to do this. I had played my land drop last turn. There's a chance I could have like gone into double 1-drop here to flip. That did not happen here. All right, so let's junk. Land. Play this. Oh, right, that's going to ping. I wanted another blue source just in case that became relevant, but I should just, I guess, played tapped Temple Garden. All right, there's a breeding pool. The next turn, I will play Stoneforge plus Birds of Paradise, and go from there. And like, hopefully, just returning double Vengevine puts me into a reasonable position. What is this? There's the battlefield. Make a food. Whenever you sacrifice a food, you can pay 1. If you do, look at top 2 cards of your library, reveal a permanent, put it into your hand. Okay, so this is an exceptionally slow to set up engine, but very powerful. But like, my deck isn't really doing stuff, right? Like, it's turn 6. I haven't done anything broken yet. Like, I guess I got a Vengevine on like turn 3. Like, that just wasn't enough. The opponent's at 12, now 13. But I think this engine is assembled enough where I probably don't win. Okay. Like, at this point, do I just stop, like, because the entertainment value isn't here anymore? I guess I'll play one more turn. Like, I'll see what happens on this Vengevine turn. But I think my opponent is like derping around with enough permanents at this point that I probably don't come back from it. I've been wrong before though. You know what? I'm gonna call it here. There's no stakes. The entertainment value of this match is probably over. Okay. This has 0 castable cards in the opening hand. Gotta be a mulligan. This hand will immediately lose if this Noble Hierarch is removed, but I'm not sure that I can really go to 5 with this deck. I'm gonna keep this and pitch the Faithful Mending. I can't really cast it right now, because like I have Boseiju as my land. And I'm going to keep the Solitude because like in the worlds where I get stuck on mana, this potentially just allows me to cast something. Okay, so we're probably playing against a tribal deck of some kind. Alright, it is goblins. Alright, here's to hoping that I can just ride a Cauldra to victory for this game. That's all I've got going on right now. Cauldra. Pass. Like, if my opponent is like a red deck or a red-black deck, it is hard to remove a resolved Cauldra. But like I could lose the Stoneforge or the Noble Hierarch here, and my life's awkward. Okay, sure. That's a Mog Fanatic. That's 1 damage. 1 damage. My opponent will use that to kill my Noble Hierarch and try to stick me on mana. Oh. Or they could use 2 and kill my Stoneforge. Yeah, they are going that route. Like, it's lucky for me that I have another Stoneforge Mystic and that they made their decision tree like that. Follow from their Skirk Prospector, sure. I will not use my Solitude to kill that, because, like, Stoneforge is this hand. Alright. Once more. And we'll grab a Batterskull. Call it a turn. My opponent will have some time to set up, right? Like, there's a very big difference between turn 3 and a turn 4 Cauldron activation, just in terms of, like, raw clocking potential. Opponent's vials will have a chance to get up to reasonable numbers. Alright. Hello, Stoneforge Mystic. Hello, Solitude. Alright, activate. Cauldron. Absolutely battle. Get the Exalted trigger as well, so that's gonna make this speedy. I don't know what I am solituding yet. I don't think it's Skirk Prospector. Like, maybe it becomes Skirk Prospector a little bit later, once, like, the Batterskull is involved with combat math. But I don't think yet. Like, there's also just worlds where I just end the game with the Solitude in my hand and I don't give my opponent any life. Alright. Third Harbinger. Search for a Goblin card, reveal it, put it on top. Sure. Their Goblin Matron mimic for this format, I guess. The whole combo is probably legal. Ooh, okay, they've got a Sting Scourger. Backing a Goblin for mana. Backing another for mana. Goblin Ringleader. That will put that Sting Scourger into my opponent's hand. That is the only thing they got. I'm not gonna Solitude that. I can take a hit from that. I'd rather save like these for a Lord or something. Another Vengevine. Very obviously not what I am looking for right now. I'll take another 6 damage here. Opponent goes to 8. And then I will put in a Batterskull on my opponent's turn. I'm not really in a great situation here in terms of like actually casting my cards in a meaningful way. But as far as like the overall game is concerned, I'm not in abysmal shape despite like barely playing cards. And like this is the power of just playing singularly powerful cards, right? Modern right now is all about like your Ragavans, your Murktide Regents, Ren and Six, Teferis, Solitudes, like just powerful cards. And the more powerful singular cards that you play, the better. But like I just played Risen Reef in Legacy, and I found it just like too slow there, and it's starting to feel like the same is true here as well. At least in this deck. But like I think this deck is being torn in too many different directions. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, opponent has something like a Trash Master. That would not be great for me. All right, they've revealed Munitions Expert. Another Ringleader. All right. So they have a Snoop as well. So the combo is potentially in their deck list. Just going for a Snoop-based kill. All right, well, you know I have this Batterskull. Were you planning on bouncing this rather than my Cauldron? Guess I will find out. Okay, there is a Sting Scourger. Okay, they are gunking that Germ token, kind of as expected. But I end up gaining life on this attack. So, like, there's that. All right. That was good for me. And I've got this Solitude to break up one of these two things here. Absolutely just getting stuck on lands in a pretty negative way here. I'll bash in for 5 with Exalted, and then I'll Prismatic Ending, probably that Vial on 2. I think I just need to make plays with my mana. Okay, opponent is going for a chump. That's fine. And goodbye to Vial on 2. Alright. This, yeah, why didn't my opponent chump with the Sting Scourger? That had Echo anyway. Yeah, seems like that was an error. Like, this is the tournament practice room, right? So, like, I'm gonna take everything just kind of with the deep breath. Like, I'm also playing a very sketch deck, so, like, I don't get to judge here. Alright, there is a Snoop. Opponent went up to 5 with Aether Vial. Okay, my opponent has conceded. That's fine. We have for goblins. Not a lot. I probably need to put Swords of Plowshares in the sideboard before the next one. Like, for these creature matchups, I just want to make sure I have some cards. Let's play a couple of Auriok Champions over something. I don't really know what to cut. Seems like my plan towards winning is probably have my opponent make mistakes more so than anything else, right? Like, get endurance blocks that I shouldn't be getting. Just take a game with Stoneforge Mystic. I'm gonna go down some Vengevines. Or maybe it should be Faithful Mending instead, and just like keep the Vengevines as just cards that bash. This is a slightly awkward opening hand that I potentially just keep because Auriok Champion is a pretty potent sideboard card, but I think a Stoneforge Mystic hand is more likely to just run away with a game than this is. I'm gonna go ahead and mulligan and look for that. This I like. Let's keep that and throw back a Squadron Hawk. Then I can get like Temple Garden on turn 1, play Faithful Mending, discard double Vengevine, and try to work towards turn 4, get double Vengevine into play. Alright, this is more reasonable. Okay, no Aether Vial or anything from my opponent, which is good. For the sake of pure laziness, I'm going to go ahead and do this, and F6 my opponent's turn. We'll see what sort of goblins they have. It's probably just going to be like a Snoop or something, yeah. And, ooh. Oh, that's actually very, 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 very good. Yep. I go Mending. Alright, we might actually do the thing here, folks. There's Mending. Discarding double Vengevine. The next turn, I play Noble Hierarch into Squadron Hawk and swing in for 8. Okay, I will actually get to do a broken thing with this deck. That is good. Okay, there's a Rainbow Land for my opponent. So this current situation is a little weird because like they have a Munitions Expert on top of their library. Goblin Matron. That card is modern legal. Alright, opponent has found a Boggart Harbinger. Bad news for Phil fans. I believe I'm dead. And I'll just let my opponent do it in case you've never seen their combo. Alright, so there's a creature. There's a creature. Always yes to those. Always yield to those. Yes, yes. Squadron Hawk. Yes. 1, 2, 3 creatures. Alright, there is a turn 3 attack for 8. Again, though, I don't really think it matters. I think my opponent plays Boggart Harbinger, puts Kiki Jiki on top of their library, makes infinite conspicuous Snoops, and then uses the last Kiki Jiki to copy this, which will then get Sling Gang Lieutenant. This does assume that my opponent has more than one Sling Gang Lieutenant because I think they revealed one that they drew. Yeah, so there's the Kiki Jiki. So now Snoop makes that, and they kind of repeat this process. It's very quick to do, unlike many other infinite combos on Magic Online. Okay, so they've done it a few more times, and now they copy Boggart Harbinger with this last one. Okay, they're gonna put Mog Fanatic on top instead. So now each one of these tokens can sacrifice and ping me for 1, and I won't make them click through it. I'll go ahead and just concede here. And we do get another game. This whole Faithful Mending thing is not super fast, huh? Or sorry, I should say that differently. This whole Faithful Mending thing isn't just like winning me the game. I don't know. Maybe on the play I'm supposed to bring in these other ones. I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith in the deck at this point, and like that was probably clear from the initial deck tech. But like I just think this deck is trying to do things that aren't powerful enough for the format. Like yeah, like this is a perfect example, right? So like this is a hand that has a good mix of lands and spells, and this like just doesn't do anything that's up to the power level format of the standard, like power level standards of the format. Do I still keep this? I guess. I think I need to go back to the drawing boards between rounds and just like accept that I need to drift from the donor's visions to make this reasonable. Like, there's multiple times where I've made turn 3 Vengevines, and it's just, like, not good enough. Alright, there is an Ether Vial. Being able to Prismatic Ending that away is really good. They're like, yeah. Yeah. Do I want Mana Dorks? Like, is it better for me to just make Noble Hierarch Bird of Paradise this turn, rather than play Squadron Hawk and attack for 2 next turn? Maybe I'll just do this in the way that attacks for 2 right now. Kind of take a middle ground. Just work on reducing my opponent's life total to 0 as quickly as possible, hoping that vial removal sets them back really far. Alright, there's a Snoop. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can have 5 total mana. I want to attack with this as a 2/2. Let's shock here. I'm going to play 2 Squadron Hawks. 1, 2, 3. Get some power in the air going. And bash in for 2. And every turn from here I can get at least 3 damage in the air. But I can just die to the combo like right now if my opponent has Bogart Harbinger. 2, 3. And they do. I will concede. Yep. I don't think we're doing something strong enough here. Alright. Don't judge me for what I'm about to do, but we gotta make some changes. So, I think you can try to go this elemental route, or you can try to go this hawk route, or you can try to go this Vengevite route, but just trying to do everything is going to result in the deck just being bad. So I'm going to pick one direction and lean in, and I'm going to pick the Vengevine direction. So we're going to cut these hawks. We're going to cut the Solitudes. We're going to cut the Risen Reefs. And we're going to try to lean a little bit harder into Vengevine. And if we're going to do that, we need something else that plays well with the graveyard. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. But, like, if you want to win games in Modern, like, sometimes you just gotta, right? I don't know if this Stoneforge Mystic package is going to stay in this deck once I start going in this direction. So then we can do something like this. We can play some Thought Scours. And these can mill us for Mending and Vengevine and Murktide Regent. Alright, so like this is the direction I can go. I am going to need to make sure that my creature density stays high enough to return Vengevine, while also making sure that I have a high enough creature density to make Murktide Regent work. Although this might be a deck where it's just like, oh, I made a 5/5 Murktide and like that's good enough. So I guess this means like some number of these mana dorks go ? Yeah, or maybe the Hawks stay. Like how am I getting both instants and sorceries? Like I'm gonna care about creatures and care about spells simultaneously. Bit awkward. I don't know. Maybe it's like Murktide Regent plus a mana dork in a turn is what I end up doing. If I have enough card draw and filtering, it doesn't matter that I have fewer targets. What's the other one? Consider? I think is the name of the other like graveyard focused cantrip. Oh, party library might put in your graveyard. Yeah, let's add 4 of those. So, do I still get to play the singularly powerful Vengevine Mystic? And like, what do these slots become? Like, do I go towards a Solitude type route? I go full on into like Ice Fang Coatl territory. It like I'm gonna try to lean on this graveyard focused thing, but I don't know. Is Thought Scour plus Consider plus Mending enough graveyard stuff for Murktide Regent? Probably. Can I afford these slots while making the core plan work? Probably not. Alright. Let's junk these. Assuming I keep these prismatic endings in here. I feel comfortable on the Murktide Regent axis. I'm not sure how I'm doing on the Vengevine axis. Did the birds just come back? Like, is that how I make this work? Like, the birds give me enough creatures to make this actually happen? All right. Folks, this is absolute experimentation in action. If that's not immediately clear, I probably need to mess around with this mana base quite a bit after making like drastic changes that add this many cantrips to the deck list. There a blue green fast land? Like, is this a complete cycle? Botanical Sanctum, the name of that one. Let's junk a Razor Verge Thicket for one of those. Honestly, I'm gonna junk the Boseiju for another and call that good. I feel like this deck is tapping out a lot. Let's say no to those counter spells. Get some Path to Exile action in here so I can be more reactive. With the Elemental sub-theme gone, I can probably get rid of Voice of Resurgence as well. Just play some reasonable magic cards. I have something that's decent against burn. I have something that's decent against creatures versus combo versus artifacts. So I guess something versus control. Or I could play a small Stoneforge Mystic package in the sideboard. Just say like, hey, if this isn't working, I can pivot. I give up my ability to hate on artifacts. Enough for 4 Stoneforges and a Cauldron. Sure. So there's a pivot for if we get hit by Leyline of the Void and we can't Murktide or Vengevine anymore. I would love to get the Batterskull in there too. I don't know. Maybe like with the mana base changes, the Auriok Champion isn't as good anymore. Like Batterskull is also something that's reasonable versus burn. At this point, Auriok Champion is probably a holdover. I should probably get rid of it. Let's do so. So I've got a pivot plan. I'm going to add back in that green Destroy All Artifacts card, which I've forgotten the name of, but I'll look that up and then borrow these other cards and we'll try another match. Alright, my opponent has revealed an Obosh. I'm going to keep this hand. It's a little awkward that I have like Forest and Plains while having a Thoughtscour that I want to cast, but that. So Kenzan, Crucible of Defiance. Guard it, 2 1/1 Spirit tokens, haste until end of turn. Okay. Sure. So my opponent will potentially just run away with this game with a Ragavan. I can try to block it on turn 2 with an Endurance, though. So is this only odd cards, right? Yeah. It's been a hot minute since I've seen an Obosh. That was one that didn't really see Legacy play. Oh. JK, I will not just deal with that on turn 2. Okay. Blast Zone? Wild. Okay. I think this is going to be fetch a basic island and Thoughtscour myself here. The Faithful Mending in there. I can play a new Noble Hierarch and go for an Endurance again next turn. And then a Murktide slightly after that. Like, the longer I can wait on the Murktide so that it becomes larger, the better. Yep, I mean, knew that was coming, but, like, I will absolutely force my opponent to use the mana here. They found Murktide Regent. They can't cast it, thankfully. If I lost to Murktide Regent after putting it in my deck, like, if I lost to my own Murktide Regent after doing that, just uninstall Magic Online, like, that's it, that's the end. I don't have 2 basic forests in this mana base, right? Oh, I have 1 basic forest. Really want blue-green here. I'm going to play Misty so that I can fetch. And then we'll go for the surprise Endurance. And hopefully it works. Fetch. Breeding Pool. Shock. Endurance. I will nuke their graveyard, I guess. I don't really expect them to do anything with it, but I don't know. They could. My opponent got very good value out of their Ragavan. Okay. And my opponent is going to take out this Endurance. This is just Obosh to hand. A Seasoned Pyromancer. Okay. Something, Endurance timing, something. Wow. At least this is 5 mana. Can I take 4 damage to filter my hand here? Or do I just need to make a large Murktide Regent that holds the ground? Like, my hand is awful. I'm at 12. This is really only taking like 2 damage. Oh, I need to play a white source to do that. Alright. I am going to try the high roll a little bit here. And end up with some more playable cards. I more or less don't think that I can shock myself for the rest of this game, so I'm going to go ahead and discard these lands. I'll just Thought Scour myself now. Alright. 1, 2, 2, 3. They're going to make a 6/6 Murktide Regent for 2 mana next turn. Little bit more in some cases. Light up the stage. Okay, cool. This like definitely stings. Opponent can also just like go wide of my blocker pretty easily. Vengevine, you're just like just in the wrong spot. I have 1 basic island. I have 1 basic island. Yeah, you were 1 card away from being in the right spot. 1, 2, 3. There, it doesn't matter. All right, there's Murktide Regent. I think my individual points of life matter too much. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Oh, what is this? Stomp. Discount. This, yeah, that should have gone to my face. I think they were thinking they could stomp and bolt it. Okay, sure. Okay. Okay. Murktide Regent's dead. With that, I don't think I have any chance of winning this game. I'm gonna go to 6 here. And then my opponent's gonna play a Bone Crusher Giant and just have a billion blockers. Start with Thought Scour myself, I guess. Ignore that Obosh. Okay. There's a world, right? There's a world. I have to hit, like, the absolute nuts here. The absolute nuts. Discard double Vengevine. Yeah. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can play birds, chump block this, live a turn. It's not exactly a good situation. Oh, wait, no, I'm dead to Blast Zone on board. Blast Zone kills this, and I take lethal. Okay, or they can do that. Like, that's fine, too. Alright, I'll concede. So I probably want this interaction stuff and that Stoneforge Mystic package for life gain. That's 9 cards. When I bring that in, how much of this stuff goes out? If the answer is most of that, I go like HawkVines and 1 Mending out. Bring in these 9 cards and plan to win with Murktide Regent. Although, like, that's obviously going against like the Hawk and the Vine portion of the deck list that like donor originally wanted me to do. So question mark. Just turn 1 bird, turn 2 endurance. Not exciting, but potentially stops some of the aggro stuff in the early game. All right, let's do it. I've got my bird, and let's see what kind of fire kills it. A spike field hazard. I'm going to Thought Scour myself right now because I could hit a mana dork. I hit my Batter Skull, which is poetic. Cannot have it all. Soul Guide Lantern. Sure. Goodbye, Batter Skull. Another Murktide Regent. We're not quite there yet. I'll shock myself so I can play Endurance at my opponent's end of turn. Holding it up for a Dash Ragavan or something. Oh, Dragon Rage Channeler is in my opponent's deck as well. I'm just gonna chill. I'm not gonna cast that. Like, it's not using my mana, which is not great, but I would rather kill this Dragon Rage Channeler in combat and more permanently answer it than anything else here. My opponent is going for the attack, so I will Endurance, and I'll send that card back into their deck. And I don't care if I trade this for Dragon Rage Channeler and a Lightning Bolt. I am quite good with that. Haggis of the Moon. Okay. Mana dorks are looking real hot. Real hot. I have to draw my 1 of Forest, or my 4 of Prismatic Ending, or my 3 of sure. Or my 3 of Path to Exile to take this out. Okay, we're gonna stare at each other for a little while. Are you gonna put Obosh to hand? You did not. So let's get rid of Magus of the Moon. And then I can just play a Murktide Regent and crash in. Goodbye. Here is your honorary mountain. I do think I will just do this. Playing out Manadorks is really cool, but so is killing your opponent. There is my dragon. We kind of danced around the Soul Guide Lantern there. Okay. Sure. We're gonna have some spirit tokens if you want to jump block. Nope, they're just making critters. That's fine. I kind of feel like my opponent has bottomed out here, and they're just firing off some of these things as removal spells. I'll block. Like, I have another Murktide Regent. You end up using like a lightning bolt and a spike field hazard or something to kill that. Like, I'm good with it. All right, that is an unholy heat plus a stomp. Yeah, absolutely. Thought Scour is slightly awkward in terms of setting up a new Murktide Regent. But I'm good with doing it. All mending. Is this an each? 1 damage to a permanent? No. Yeah, this mana base needs to be a little more blue than it is to support Murktide. I'm gonna do this and cast this Faithful Mending from the graveyard, I think. Oh, that's good. I don't want Bird, and I'll throw the Faithful Mending away for value. I'm good with an Endurance attack here. I get in more damage than I take. Like, I'll take 1 on the backswing for making this attack. I guess there's the Bugbear thing. Yeah, but I want to, like, Thought Scour into Murktide Regent next turn, which I probably will be able to do. I also am just going to have Stoneforge Mystic. Maybe because of this land, I don't make this Endurance attack. Yeah, there is the Den of the Bugbear activation. Yeah, maybe that attack wasn't as good as I gave it credit for. Path to Exile. Thought Scour, target me. Found a new Endurance. 4/4 Murktide? No, I think I'll just Stoneforge while playing a new Endurance. Right. There's Stoneforge. We'll use this ability. I'll grab a Cauldra. I believe I am the aggressor here. I will take my 4 more damage. And this drops my opponent to 9. A little hard for them to deal with this Cauldra. They've fired off a couple of removal spells already. I am going to put in another Endurance, have 6 power worth of Endurance attacking, and 5 power worth of Cauldra attacking. Yeah, that's fine. At this point, I will get cheeky and get in there with an Endurance. And that is the concession. So we will have another game here. I like the configuration of the deck right now. But, you know, these things that I'm supposed to build around, like, have been sideboarded out. But, like, Murktide Regent is dumb, right? Endurance is a very good card, too. Like, the configuration of this deck list that has felt good has been the one where, can I keep this? On the draw with 2 cantrips, I think I can keep this. Not 100% sure. Like, it's bad against a Ragavan start. Bitter is weird versus Ragavan. I'm gonna play Island Pass and then see what happens with the Ragavan trigger. Okay. I will eat 2. Opponent found my Consider, or a Consider, rather. I don't know if casting that is better than them just advancing their own gameplay, though. Okay. Until the end of your next turn. So my opponent has guaranteed Magus of the Moon next turn. That is very bad for me. And I need to find a fetch land right the fuck now. Birds of Paradise is acceptable. Right? I don't know. Does my opponent just have enough removal where that's not actually acceptable? Okay, this is a way for me to cast these white cards. I'm going to take that. Okay. I will start with Thought Scour, target myself. Razor Verge Thicket. I'm gonna play basics and try to incentivize my opponent not to cast Magus of the Moon. Like, despite the fact that I have 2 basics, I am bad against it right now because my hand is white-centric with these around. We'll see what happens. Spike Field Hazard, sure. So that's Spike Field Hazard into Magus of the Moon. That's gross because I need double green and double blue to beat that here. And this is Magus. That's Magus. All right, yeah. So I have a single planes in my deck list, as well as a handful of mana dorks that matter, and my paths and prismatic endings and such are not outs here in the same way. I guess I can also get to 5 mana and cast a Batter Skull, but that's pretty unlikely to happen before I just die. Because my opponent can just sack Soul Guide Lantern, and this is 3. It doesn't look like they're willing to do that. My opinion, they probably should have, but I have information about my own hand that they do not have. Right, like, I know about my Batter Skull, and I know, like, they don't have a lot of time before I have a very good colorless threat available to me. Okay, sure. And another Dragon Rage Channeler. Yeah, so I am dead on board if they sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern. Jesus, okay. Alright, we're gonna concede, and I think we're gonna go ahead and give up on this this deck completely. So this deck was a failed experiment. Even in trying to make it better, I just couldn't. When you have to play multiple bad cards in order to enable your strategy is not often going to work in higher power formats. So, with the original version of the deck list, when we had like the Hawks and those blue champions and the Vengevines and the Risen Reefs, like we just had so many cards that were individually very weak on their own. And when you have a bunch of individually weak cards and your opponent is playing a bunch of individually powerful cards, like you don't end up on the right side of that equation. Um, I do think what I have here is closest to something that is functional that has like both Squadron Hawk and Vengevine in the deck still. But like the powerful thing in this deck is Murktide Regent, right? Like that's the thing that is going to win games with, or like the Cauldra that was randomly in there off of Stoneforge. Like those were the things that were going to win games, not necessarily the Vengevines. This is a time where I've kind of just given up on the deck list. Folks, if you have ideas for our donor, like please throw them in the comments. Because I tried, the folks in my Discord tried, we couldn't figure out a way to make this work. Like you can add in other singularly powerful cards like Teferi, but it just doesn't seem like this idea is up to snuff for the format. I'm gonna call the video here early. This is a fewer rounds than I normally play, but I feel kind of defeated by this one. So have a great rest of the day. See ya.